Hi, James. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Nisha.
How are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
Good, good, not bad. So I just wanted to quickly update you. Remember, I asked you a question, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, about talking to my VP of the
Mm-hmm.
department. So the
Yes.
good, yeah, so the good thing that happened is that I had a phone conversation with her, and then I also followed up with her on the email. And my organization, it's going through a digital transformation process right now. So
Mm-hmm.
we are all transitioning to Salesforce. And what she asked me to do is shadow some of the calls with the vendor company. So I started doing that, and it has been going pretty good. The interesting thing that happened is I also spoke to the project manager, and she said that she's going to start using Agile. We have not used Agile in this organization before, so she has started using Agile. They used Waterfall earlier for the same digital transformation
Mm-hmm.
process, and it went horribly wrong. And I said, okay, can I just look at the business requirement document? I don't want to, I just want to see it, I said. And he was very supportive. He was like, yeah, why not? But I was so surprised to see the business requirement document, James, because as you said, it has to be something which a third person can understand, as to what the
Mm-hmm.
requirements are. And this was so complex, and it didn't make sense at all. And it was for the gifts department, but it didn't make sense at all as to what they were trying to do. So, so yeah. And I told her that, the project manager, that I would like to see how you are going to use, user stories, and if I can help in writing some of the user stories and things like that. So let's see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Oh, awesome. I think it's a good moment. If you get an opportunity in your company itself, it'll be much more faster for you.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's just, what I'm learning in your class, and, what I'm reading, and then actually seeing it in practice, or even I can talk about it. I think that is kind of very motivating for me.
Cool.
So yeah.
That's a great story. Hey, Amir.
Hi, James. How are you today? How was your day? How was your weekend, actually?
Weekend was pretty lethargic due to the crazy weather in Dallas, as you know.
I don't know what's happening in Dallas.
It's just raining. It's just dark from last 2 days. So extremely humid. Lot of food with friends. Eating a lot of food with friends and all. So you can just imagine dark weather and eating a lot of food. It
Good,
doesn't go well.
good. Garam garam samosa and pakoras and nice.
I don't think, James, you're complaining about the food, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm
I
saying
didn't
after
think.
eating that much food, and if you have a dark weather, then you can just imagine what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Goodbye, cruel world, and you go to sleep.
Hmm. Let me just
Lethargy.
drop a note to everyone that we are about to start the class. All right. So let me quickly share my screen. શું કરું છું? બાબુ, અહીંયા નહીં, અહીંયા laptop પાસે નહીં હોવાનું. Sorry. Hmm. Let me share my screen quickly with you all and tell you what I actually gave you assignment on last week. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
So over here, if you see, I've given you these questions here last time, right? elicitation techniques and sprint ceremonies, right?
Mhm.
What kind of interview questions could come around that? I've just wrote them down right now. So how do you gather requirements from difficult stakeholders? What if a stakeholder is not giving requirements? How do you gather requirements in short time? What type of elicitation techniques have you used before? What is the difference between wireframe, prototype, and mockups? All these questions hints you in this. If someone asks you about Scrum ceremonies, this is how they can ask you. Which Scrum ceremonies have you been part of or driven before? How do you gather requirements in agile environment? How do you prioritize defects? How do you prioritize backlog? What framework have you used before to do the same? So these are a couple of questions that someone can ask you, and when they ask you these questions, this is where they are hinting you. This is where the answer lies in. Make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
And there could be one more question here. How do you improve? Please don't mind, my son is around me right now.
That's fine. That's cute. What's his name?
Arav.
How do you spell it?
Aarav.
Arav.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cute name.
He doesn't want you to work on a weekend. Once
And weekend is
daddy
about to over.
time.
Weekend is
Once
about
that.
to over, so I'm preparing him for tomorrow. So how do
By
you?
the age of, how old is he?
He's about 2.5.
Oh my God,
Age of
that's young.
5, he'll be a Scrum Master.
How do you make sure you have sprint retrospective are used for improvements? How do you bring improvements within sprint or improve story points? Okay, I think so. We can probably so. The reason I'm just typing it here is so that you know that when someone asks you this question, your answer lies here. So you exactly know what to say and what not to say, right? Who wants to give it a shot first today? I can start asking questions, and we can go from there.
I'll give it.
Okay, let me go back to Teams. Hey, Hassan. Can you hear us, Hassan?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Savnit said that she won't be able to join the call today. We can probably go ahead and continue. Are we having a team meeting? Whose message was that today? Oh, it was Hassan. Okay, cool. Hassan, the classes will always be on Zoom. It will never be on Teams. Just so that you know.
Okay, sir.
All right. So this answer doesn't have to be like 90 seconds long. When I ask you a specific topic about Scrum ceremony or specific elicitation technique, it can be probably less than 30 seconds. That's completely fine because you're talking about a very small topic. But if someone asks you what kind of sprint ceremonies have you driven before, or what kind of elicitation techniques you have used before, then that answer can be 90 seconds long. But if I ask you a specific elicitation technique, hey, what is 360-degree feedback? That answer can be less than 30 seconds, right? And you may be able to associate an example here, you may not be, it all depends. But I think mostly the intention here is to make sure that you know, at least in theory, and when I say theory, at least you should sound practical more, that this is how I used to do in my company. This is how we were driving ceremonies for Scrum. This is how we were using elicitation techniques in my company. And that context itself would be helpful. So with that being said, let's rock and roll from here. So first question is, what is 360-degree feedback?
When I was working on this banking application as part of the team, one of the elicitation requirements gathering technique was the 360 degrees, wherein we got anonymous feedback from the people who worked around. We went to the employees, their manager, their peers, their direct reports, and we gave them confidential feedback, papers for feedback, and got
Sorry,
feedback.
Amrit, this is not that one. This 360-degree feedback is different. If you go back to our
What is it?
class, this is for gathering requirements, where you have a lot of folks in your meeting and in your team, you collect feedback from them on those requirements. So 360
I got
degree feedback, as the name suggests, right? When you are in the conference room or when you are on a call, all you do is you ask for feedback from one after another from every single person on the call. The reason is you want to make sure that everyone is aligned and you have heard feedback from everyone before you walk out of that room. After the topic is done, or when you want to start sometimes a new topic about which everyone knows, you can just pose a question. Hey, I want to collect feedback from each of you just to make sure that I understood the requirement. And you just go round the table one after another, or one after another on the call, right? That's what 360-degree feedback is.
So we
So
go around a conference room or a call, right?
It could be conference room, it could be call, or it could be conference room and call both. Everyone involved in those two places will be giving their feedback.
And the feedback would be from users themselves, right? Correct? We're gathering
feedback on a particular topic that you are discussing
yes.
there.
Yes. Okay.
About a requirement, about a product.
Got it. Sorry about that. I thought it was confidential. It's not that one.
Yeah. And I will just go quickly over this because I think there are a lot of questions that we have to cover today. So we can all cover different questions today, not the same questions. Brainstorming session, Nisha or Hassan, who wants to cover that?
I can do that. So usually brainstorming sessions are where there are many stakeholders involved, and sometimes they are structured, sometimes they are non-structured. When it is structured, they are usually facilitated, say by a peer, and which helps kind of communicate conversations between different cross-functional participants, because each group has a different requirement and priorities. So brainstorming sessions kind of help identify gaps, redundancies, and lead to a consensus for a requirement.
I think not completely aligned on that one. What I would have said instead, so I would have said it in a different way. So brainstorming, we use brainstorming sessions a lot of times when we have to solve any particular problem or when we are discussing about any new topics or ideas, right? And the goal of this meeting is to always make sure that we don't have a cap in our mind that, hey, this is how the technology is working, hence we have to only think about this solution. We literally keep the how part aside. We just brainstorm about the different options possible to solve a particular problem or bring an idea into a reality, right? So we just think through things. This is what we need. These are the things that we need. These are the things that we can do, and we just start creating lists from there. Once we create those lists, we look at the potential options that could really help us solve the problem, or that could really help us bring an idea into a reality. Then we start working on that. So this is the reason that we do brainstorming sessions for. This is how we have used brainstorming sessions in our company in the past.
But James, don't we use brainstorming sessions in when we are doing a wish list, when we are trying to collect requirements or understand requirements
Yes,
in our
wish
for our
list
wish
can
list?
do. What I heard though, you said functional requirements and non-functional requirements. You said something like that, right?
Oh, I said cross-functional participants.
Oh,
Something
cross-functional
like,
participants.
yeah.
I think you didn't have to really say you can use cross-functional participants. That's not a problem.
Okay.
You can use, so wish list is what? Bringing an idea into a reality, right?
Yes.
So yes, wish list is part of that.
Okay.
Right? So you can use wish list for if it's for agile environment, you can definitely say we used to have brainstorming sessions to come up with wish list
Yeah.
and then define the minimal viable product from there.
Okay.
Cool.
Did you say brainstorming session? We don't worry about the how. We just come create a different
Yeah,
solution.
we just think about, right? We just brainstorm. We just
Yeah.
brainstorming and ideas to do these things in a multiple ways. And once you come up with some potential options, and then you start talking about how can we make that happen. Sometimes it is part of it. Sometimes brainstorming sessions could be part of it. Like, how could we solve this? Right? But when you're talking about the wish list and all, you don't talk about the how part. If you're trying to solve a technical problem, then of course you need to brainstorm about the how part, not before that. So this could be used for multiple reasons, right? Brainstorming sessions could be used for multiple reasons.
Can we
But
brainstorm
typically
with the users, the customers?
Sorry?
Can we brainstorm with users, the customers, as product owners?
No, you cannot. You don't have access to customers. Don't get into that. That will open.
Brainstorming is basically within the team. I'm just trying to find.
Yes, within the team, or within the group, where or for the people who are affected by the project, you may want to involve all of them. As Nisha said, right, cross-functional collaboration.
Got it. Thank
Hey,
you.
Abdul.
Hi, James. Sorry, I was a little late.
Cool. The next one is market survey.
Yeah, I had a question about that. That was my question. Was market survey or market analysis? Is that what you're getting into? How it's done?
All you do is, let's say if you are supporting a software in bank, right? And bank associates are using one of the softwares to run your transactions. When you go and talk to a teller has a system that they are using, correct? In the bank, before they hand over you the cash, or before they take your check, there is a system that they are using, correct?
Yes.
So you can run a survey. Hey, how the system is helping you? What would you like to improve in this system? What are the pain points you are facing when you're dealing with customer while using this system? You just run a survey across the Bank of America. So this 5,000 bank associates will give you a feedback. This is what are the pain points. This is what we like. This is what we can improve. You took those feedback from them now, and now you try to improvise something on your system to help them better. That's market survey. When you go to Taco Bell, it always gives you a survey in the receipt. If you look at the receipt, it says that if you take this survey, you'll get $500 for that.
Okay.
That's what I was wondering, because sometimes they have people in the mall walking around doing surveys too. So I was wondering if that's part of it. So.
Abdul, I can't hear you.
Yeah, your voice is muffling, Abdul.
What was his first question? I didn't get that either.
We are just trying to explain what is market survey. Hassan, you had a question?
Yes, sir. The question is, so for market survey, we might have to send them a questionnaire about what they're dealing with, like what they like, what they don't like, what they need to be improved and all. Is that what market survey is all about? Or
yep, and you do that through Monkey Survey. There is a website called Survey Monkey.
Yes, sir.
You can use that.
Yeah, I'm well aware of. We usually get those at our workplace. Yes, you're right.
So you use that market survey to gather feedback from actual users or from actual people who are using your survey, who are using your software, or people like who are supporting call center, right? They also often have a lot of feedback for you when they're talking to customer. What kind of problem customers are facing on your site right now? You run that survey and they tell you this is what customers are facing issues with. So you know exactly this. So now you know these are the things I can improve on.
So he said like this, that market surveys are done to find the expectations, the characteristics and requirements, what we are going to deliver.
Yes.
Okay.
And guys, I again and again I'm telling you all, please try to be prepared for this meeting. This meeting is not to clarify questions and answers. This meeting is for you to give me answers. If you had a question around market survey, we had a recording in our class where we talked about the elicitation techniques, and this could have been answered there if you would have like looked at that recording, right? If you don't use this meeting wisely, it will not help you to start your marketing quickly.
Well, I had that answer, but I wasn't asking a question. I was just saying if my answer is correct, and you said yes.
Yeah, that answer was correct.
Thank you.
That feedback was not just for you, Amir. It was for everyone on the call.
Thank you.
Pre-analysis. Can someone tell me what is pre-analysis?
Okay, what I understood, should I go or would somebody else?
Just one, Amir, you can go ahead.
What I understood was when you're doing a market survey, you need to categorize it into what you really want from that survey. You do a pre-analysis that these are the attributes of the product that we are going to do a market survey on, and these are the parameters we'll judge them on, so that it doesn't go haywire, because when you get the data, you need to plug it in to get to your desired.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. And but it could not be just used for market survey. Whenever you go for any meetings, usually we use it for meetings. Whenever we go for any meetings, we always do the pre-analysis, and then only we go to the meeting, so we know what are the outcomes of those meetings.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Right. Cool. The next one is workshop sessions. Anyone else wants to try? Abdul, Nisha, or Hassan? Workshop sessions.
I'll give it a go.
Okay.
Workshop sessions, from what I understand, it would be workshops or meetings with the team or other stakeholders within the company or project to find out what each stakeholder wants or needs, or what they're looking for. Would that be it?
No, workshop sessions are like all hands on deck. This is the terminology that they use in the office. All hands on the deck, as in everyone is in a room or on a call, like we are on the call right now. They share their screen and they start working on things right there and then. If there is a problem, or if there is a new project that we want to work, that we want to write requirements on, you will have all the subject matter experts on the call with you. You will start writing requirements in front of them on your screen, like I was doing while collecting feedback from you. All right, that's workshop sessions.
Okay. So it's not really getting opinions, it's actually working on.
Yes, working on something to get things done, right? To get things done faster. When you are in company, sometimes you want to get things done faster, which means let's just get everyone on a call or in one room, and let's just start working on it.
Okay.
Right. Okay. The next one is, I think we all know what are group interviews or one-on-one interviews. So I'll probably skip them. It's like having different people on the call for group interviews, or one-on-one interviews is like having your meeting with your business stakeholder, when you and your stakeholder are the only ones in the meeting, but no one else. Those two are pretty simple, so not too concerned. Last one is mock-ups, wireframes, and prototype. Can someone tell me what are those three things? Mock-ups, wireframes, and prototype.
I can give it a try.
Okay.
So as part of the requirement gathering, you in Agile, we wrote stories, but clarify, make things very transparent. We make workflows, then turn them into screen by screen shots, which are called wireframes, and colors, make them presentable so that developers can understand what we require out of them. And we call those markups. And if from one user screen, the process, we immediately need to show that we have to go to the other one, given a specific answer, then we attach them in a way that they're called prototypes. This way, the whole process is given in a diagram form, in a clear, besides there's a clear diagrammatical view for the developer to see. And so that any discrepancies, any understanding errors are further clarified. Those are called wireframe, and they usually we give them, like at Bank of America, once I gave you user stories and the acceptance criteria, and defined the error scenario and the thresholds. I also gave them the wireframes and the markups with prototypes, meaning if one screen was to be followed by another, it was in the prototype form.
I would probably say, Amir, 3 out of 10. I think answer was not well structured. You used wrong jargons, if I heard it correctly. I may ask you all a question. Are you guys rehearsing these answers before coming to this call?
I did to some extent.
We were supposed to rehearse them, but Abdul and I and Nisha and last week we rehearsed them, so we were well rehearsed. This week we had difficult work scenarios. I just returned yesterday.
Okay.
Abdul was busy anyway, so we couldn't
rehearse. Yeah, and there's like the religious holiday deals. That's why normally we're trying to do it every week.
And we did it for 2 weeks. That's why our answers were pretty well structured. But this week,
I know Ramadan is on right now, so that makes sense. But yeah, if you cannot get with the team on rehearsing it, still try to do it on your own at your own convenience. Doesn't have to be a group effort if you don't want to, because of some challenges. But I think rehearsing it will really help you to give better answers and get better feedback from me. So this is how I would have said. This is super simple: wireframes, mockups, and prototypes. First of all, there is nothing called screenshot. Okay, screenshot is always taken off a screen which exists in the world. There is no screenshot without a screen being existing there. So we need to say wireframes are pretty simple, right? You just build a skeleton of pages or screens that is part of the project or the product. That's it. Mockups are, we create mockups. Usually when I create mockups, I try to make sure that that mockup is very close to the real page, the way it's going to look like when customer is going to use that page. I will hand over this mockups, well-finished mockups to my designer so that the designer can create high fidelity designs out of that. And before even I hand over the mockups, I always make sure that I make those mockups clickable. So when someone clicks on that button, on one button to another button, the exact user journey is called out in those mockups, which is what I call prototype. So whenever I work with designers, I always try to give them the prototypes and mockups beforehand so that his work or her work gets easier and we can probably do things faster. That's it. That's what wireframes, mockups, and prototypes are. It is that simple.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yep. Now I'll just quickly tell you, there are some other questions. Let me share my screen again. So we went over each technique like line by line right now, correct? All these techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody could have asked you a question that, hey, how do you get the requirements in short time or quickly? Or how could you make sure that the requirements that you're capturing are efficient? So you can always use this. You can just use these jargons. Hey, whenever I want to get requirements quickly, I make sure that I use working sessions. I do a lot of pre-analysis. I arrange a lot of group interviews. I create mockups and wireframes or create prototypes to get all this information. Right? All those things lined up there. That's my answer. Second, what type of elicitation techniques have you used before? You can name all this, or you can name whatever you can remember on the call. But you absolutely have to talk about these 4 things. And I think there is nothing you can miss from this. You have to talk about everything from here. Sometimes I also call, like in my interviews, I actually say meeting minutes is my meeting minutes is one of my best elicitation technique. What is meeting minutes? Meeting minutes is simple. When the meeting is done, I just send the notes out of after the meeting. This is what we had discussed. This is what we had discussed. These are the action items. These are the person who's going to work on these action items. So usually these are the only elicitation techniques that I use. If there is a stakeholder which is not available, so what if stakeholder is not giving requirements, right? Then what you do, you try to create mockups, wireframes, and prototype. So when someone looks at this mockups, it will make him think whether this is right or this is wrong, and you will start collecting feedback. That's how I deal with them, right? Where I try, and someone can say that some stakeholders is not giving requirements or doesn't have time.
Or they don't know it.
Yep. So when they don't know it, you can there is one more thing which you can say, furnish examples. I always try to furnish examples for my project so that my stakeholders would know what I'm asking about, right? For this line. So when you give examples to someone, it will help someone understand what exactly is being asked from the project or from them. When they don't have time, this pre-analysis becomes the most important thing. Pre-analysis and predefined agendas of the meeting. Predefined agenda of the meeting. So these are our elicitation techniques. So when someone asks you this question, you should exactly know that this is where your answer lies in, right? How do you get the requirements from difficult stakeholders? We use one of these elicitation techniques, and this is how I would work with stakeholders. I arrange working sessions for them. I create mockups or wireframes. I schedule one-on-one meetings with them as required. We also do market surveys sometimes. We do brainstorming sessions. This helps me gather requirements from my stakeholders really, really well. And I will try to find out which approach my stakeholder likes, and I'll go with that approach as opposed to using all the approach at the one time. Based on his availability and flexibility, I'll use one of this approach and work on those things. Make sense?
Yep.
That's all part of elicitation techniques. So by just talking about this today, you actually prepared for 3 or 4 different interview questions right now.
Lovely.
Right. And last week we covered about three interview questions. And I think few weeks before in the interview session, we covered a couple of more questions.
Yes.
You will be asked only 10 to 12 questions at a like maximum 10 to 12 questions in one interview. I think then most interviews are 30 to 45 minutes, and 10 questions or 12 questions are the max that they can ask you.
Got it.
Next one is Scrum ceremonies. Can someone tell me what is daily stand-up? How about this? I would let you guys speak one after another. You pick I will not stop here. You guys just pick this topic and start speaking about that one after another.
Okay, so daily stand-up is our daily meetings, short meetings of usually like 15 minutes. There are Scrum meetings where each one, how would I say, I don't know the role, but everybody goes through kind of a reporting of what they did yesterday, what they are focusing on today, and if there are any roadblocks.
Awesome. That's all. I think Nisha, you were on target for that. What is retrospective session?
I can try again. So retrospective sessions is usually after a completion of a sprint, the team gathers and we try to gather understanding of what worked, what didn't work, the defects, and what are the next steps. So those are the retrospective sessions.
Perfect. That's all you need. If you want to understand retrospective session really well, there is a I have a couple of examples that will make you remember this for lifelong. One is whenever you go for the exams, after you're done writing your exam, when you come back home, you always wonder, hey, I should have answered it this way. Hey, I should have written this here. I missed writing this, right? to write your exams better from next time whenever you appear on the same paper. Cool. And there is one more funny example. I don't know if I should say this in the class or not, but if after breakup, usually people go into the retrospective zone, right? Evaluating the relationship. I'm just giving you a rough example so you would never forget this.
Yeah, you start self-analyzing.
Yes, that's all it is. Grooming session. Can someone tell me what is grooming session?
Grooming session is, I don't know. I don't want to go all by. I mean, I want to wait for somebody else to answer first.
I haven't rehearsed it, but I mean, I know what it is, but like.
Amir, you want to try?
Yeah. So in Agile, the most exciting part that I enjoyed as a product owner was the grooming session, where I was aligning user stories for the next sprint. And it was basically initially prioritizing them with the story points and estimates, identifying roadblocks and minimizing risks. But during mid-sprint, I would always come back.
Sorry, Amir, you're not on the right track. You're not on the track. Grooming sessions are very, very simple. All you do in that, okay, let me give Nisha a shot. Nisha, you want to go for that?
Yeah, so grooming session is just about giving story points to each user story, which means that we are identify the number of hours, the work hours that we will be assigning.
That's not what it is. Grooming sessions.
What?
Yeah, that's not what it is. It is part of the grooming session, but that's not what the grooming sessions are meant for. Grooming sessions are meant for your team. You have your entire team in this meeting. And the reason you call them in this meeting is to review user stories with them. You make sure that whatever acceptance criteria you've written, they're comfortable with it and they don't have any more questions. If everything looks good to them, I usually ask them to vote on the story with the story points. And once they give me story points, I'll just mark those, I'll just add those story points in the story and close it there. Estimation, like story estimation is different as opposed to hourly estimation. Hourly estimation is part of sprint planning, not sprint grooming.
But then the story points are assigned based on the hours. Like say, for example. No?
It is a bad method. People do that, but even we are doing this in our company, but that's not how it should be. Never say in the interview that you assign story points based on hours.
Okay.
In reality, that's how it's going to come like, but I think it is not a right way. Usually it's based on the complexity, mixture of complexity and number of hours. And usually only developers and QAs are the ones who will be giving the estimation, or designers. BA or product owner never has to assign story points, because once the story is in the sprint, BA or product owner job is done. Like it's all on the team now.
Do we criticize the story points? Like if they say they give us more time than they really need?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So basically it's all team, it's a session where all team members are there, agree on criteria and on the story points.
Yes, and make sure all the questions are clarified. That is the more important intent. Story point is the end result. But you first review the stories, create the stories, review the stories, clarify the questions, and then you assign the story points. It is the end result. You cannot say that grooming session is conducted to assign story points. That's not what it is used for. It is used to clarify requirements and review user stories with everyone in the team. Pre-grooming session.
Pre-grooming is easy. It's like, once we have the wish list and when we proceed for the deciding on the epics and the features and the backlog. That's what we call pre-grooming sessions. We decide on the epics or the features.
Nope. When we decide on the epics and features, that's sprint prioritization, backlog prioritization. That's not pre-grooming session.
Oh my God, my notes are all wrong then, James.
So is it what I have down what I understood was it is the process by which a story is evaluated for readiness to go into the backlog for grooming the team by the team.
Yes, that's what it is. So you work with your business stakeholders, your product managers, and subject matter expert who are really experts on those topics. You gather requirements from them. You write user stories. You write acceptance criteria. You make sure that you and your stakeholder are aligned on those acceptance criteria. And if you get his or her buy-in, then you present these stories in grooming session with your entire team and collect story points. That's how it flows, right?
So this does happen in sprint backlog. Then I'm trying to correct my
backlogs, product backlog and sprint backlog. Sprint backlog is only after sprint planning, right?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
As a BA, you can generate sprint backlog. Like I can generate backlog for sprint 2A, sprint 3A, sprint 3B. You can generate backlog for each sprint, right? But before you generate the backlog for each sprint, those, you need to work with stakeholder to get those information, right?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, got it.
James, on one of the, I'm sorry to interrupt. On one of the charts, it showed pre-grooming as a sprint backlog session, from what I remember. I think, Amir, we were looking at the chart together, and that's what I wrote in my notes.
What was that?
That it was showing the pre-grooming session as something that's done in the sprint backlog.
No. So, when it's part of sprint backlog, when you groom stories, you put those stories in sprint backlog.
Okay, that's probably what it said then. Okay.
So I'm just going to assign the rankings here, like how, in which order these meetings happen, right? This is first, then this is second, product and sprint backlog. Then you have third, then you have grooming session as 4, then you have sprint planning session as 5, then you have daily stand-up, then you have demo session, and then you have retrospective session at the end. Defect review meetings. So this is the order of the meetings. Okay.
Yep.
So we covered the grooming, pre-grooming, planning. What is sprint planning?
I have not prepared, but my understanding is sprint planning is usually it's implementation of a user story every 2 to 3 weeks. Usually the sprint is usually for 2 to 3 weeks, and that's what sprint planning is.
Right before the sprint is going to begin, we have a sprint planning session a day before.
You want me to attempt it?
You can go ahead and try.
Probably wrong, but I'll remember it if I'm wrong. It's sprint. It's this part in the Scrum framework where we determined the product backlog items that we will work on during the next sprint. And we discuss the initial plans for completing those product backlog items. That's sprint planning, that what we had in the product backlog, the priority. This is the next sprint, what are we going to do? And what are our initial plans for completing those product backlog items?
Awesome. Cool. I think that's what it is. You can add a little more information here if you have to, though. So this is what I would have said. We usually conduct sprint planning session before every sprint begins. One day before the sprint starts, or the day when the sprint is going to start in the morning. In this meeting, our main goal is that as a product owner, I make sure that I have given the right priorities for each story in the order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this order. And I give this priority order to my team. I'll let them decide, hey, based on this priority, based on your hours, let me know what all stories you can probably work as part of this one sprint. So they will assign their hours to each story. They will assign tasks to each story, and there will be a point where we will find out, hey, they had 200 hours for development and 200 hours for QE. Now they can only take up 8 stories for this sprint based on the hours that they had. So all the other stories will be prioritized for the next sprint after that. This is the basic goal. And once the sprint planning is done, team starts working on those stories, and I'll be making sure to work with them, support them as needed to ensure that stories are delivered in time at the end of the sprint. That's it. Right? Sprint demo sessions, super simple.
Yep, they're held at the end of each sprint, and just show all the internal stakeholders what's been done and how things work.
Yep, just give a quick demo of the product that you've developed, and that's it. Usually this is at the end of the sprint.
Yep.
Sometimes people do once a week, like once a week within the sprint, so that someone knows that what the progress has been made on the product. But usually it is at the end of the sprint, and you show to collect feedback from everyone. You show them this is what we have built so far. Let me know if you have any feedback, and you collect their feedback. If you have time, you work in that same sprint, or you prioritize it for the next sprint from there.
Yeah, it gives you insight into the next sprint also. What's coming.
Defect management.
This is at the testing stage.
Mm-hmm. There is nothing called testing stage in Agile, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Defect management meeting is being used. Sorry, yes. I'll let you guys speak. It's not for me. It's for you guys.
So defect is usually, we do a review to identify the defect or the bugs in the product, and based on the feedback.
Yep, defect.
Plus, you see, first of all, everybody has to know what the defect is. The team has to be on board, get their feedback. Then we have to prioritize it. That's what I understood.
Yes. So defect management.
And this is Amir. When you work on the resolution, and finally you document analysis, what you analyze, like where the defects fall in, so that in the future you can be, better at it. So that's all I understood about defect management. First of all, you agree on a defect. It's got to be visible to everybody. Then we have to prioritize them because there can be 10 of them. We have to see which ones are the key ones to work on. Then we agree on a resolution. And after these steps, we also make sure that we chart them down, analyze them for future product development success.
Okay, I think what you said at the end, Amir, that was right. When I say in the end, when you started talking about the looking at the defects. So this is what we do, right? Basically, we review defects, we confirm whether it's a defect or not. We identify the priority of that defect, and we assign the priority for the defect, like who's going to work on this defect. That's it. We do not find resolutions in defect management meeting. It is up to developers to find out the resolution. It's not on to us, right? So all we do is review the defect, confirm it's a defect, assign the priority, and assign a person who's going to work on this one, and you're done with it. That's all you do. For defect prioritization, usually these are the priorities that you have: showstopper, high priority, medium priority, low priority, or deferred. Showstopper is anything which is going to stop our users to use major functionality, right? Majority of our users are blocked. They cannot do anything. If they cannot log in their application, it's a showstopper, right? If there is a security breach, it's a showstopper. If 80% of your users are affected, it's a showstopper. High priority is something which is below showstopper, which is a high priority, but it can still be in the production environment for a day or two, and you're okay with it. Medium priority is where not a lot of users are being affected. Only some edge cases are being affected by this. I'm just giving you examples, right? Low priority is something which is very, very low in nature, not a very popular functionality, or very low number of users are being affected. And the last one, deferred, is it's a very small defect. We don't want to fix this. We'll just defer it. We'll not fix that.
Good.
No application is defect free. Every application has some or the other bugs. So you just choose to live with those defects. You don't try to fix them. That's defect prioritization. Cool.
So what is the Scrum Master's role in this? Because the Scrum Master is also involved.
Scrum Master role will be if there is a change request that comes in. Usually when you're giving a defect, then people will start playing a blame game. This was not written in the acceptance criteria. Why did you not tell me this, or why did you not write this? And we'll say, hey, why didn't you ask me this, right? If it was not in the acceptance criteria, doesn't mean that you should not think about this. So
okay, sorry,
Scrum
go
Master's
ahead.
role. So Scrum Master's role is to make sure that the sprint goals are not compromised while working on these defects. And if there is a new change request that has come through, it will be prioritized for next sprint and not in the same sprint. Scrum Master will make sure that the scope of these defects and the deliveriness, like timely delivery of defect or timely delivery of this defect is possible within the same sprint.
Okay.
Cool. The next one is product and sprint backlog prioritization. It's not very different than what we talked about for defect. The only difference here is that you think about the stories in sprint backlog prioritization, and in product backlog, you think about the epics and features. That's the only difference. In defect prioritization, you prioritize a bug. In sprint backlog, you prioritize a story. In product prioritization, product backlog prioritization, you prioritize the epics or features. That is the only difference. Framework is not very different. It is still the same. Like high priority stuff should be worked upon first, followed by medium priority, then low priority, and which is the model that we used, MOSCOW, MOSCOW. What framework have you used this one? MOSCOW, MOSCOW, must have, should have, could have, and would have.
So we just prioritize epics and features and
in product backlog. In sprint backlog, we prioritize user stories.
Based on, and the user stories, based on Moscow, then we, a priority, their size, that's what I got out of it.
Yes, that's all we do, right?
Yeah. So we just do Moscow, priority, size, and priorities are just high, second level. And after that, we don't worry about it. We keep on grooming it and bringing it into high and second level for our next sprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I got in the notes.
That's correct. And the last one is brainstorming session together wish list. I think we already covered this one, right? You just have a brainstorming session to cover the together the wish list from everyone. Yeah. And then you create the epics and sub epics after that.
Today was a long list and we just didn't get a chance to rehearse it.
Brainstorming session together wish list. We usually, what was the outcome of that?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
List and then sign it. So if I look at above, which Scrum ceremonies, these are all the Scrum ceremonies that you have been part of. There is nothing that you have not worked or that we have not covered in the class. So this is all that you have done. How do you get the requirements in Agile? This is the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should go in this order. When you explain someone what is Agile, this is the order you should go in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's how you should explain. How do you prioritize defects? We just talk through them. Showstopper, this is just so that you know, showstopper, high priority, medium priority, low priority, deferred. Then how do you prioritize backlog? We just covered that with the Moscow framework. And you guys can look into the our recordings. You would exactly find what is Moscow and how did we prioritize this. I think I have that in one of our classes. How do you bring improvements within the sprint or improve sprint velocity? Retrospective sessions. retrospective sessions are, as Nisha said, right? It's what went well, what give kudos. Kudos is like appreciation for the people who have done good job. Kudos to our team members, to specific team members, and what needs to be improved. And that's it.
I think this will be 50% of the interview in this one page you got.
If I am the interviewer and if you're using these jargons, maybe your entire interview is around these things. In addition to, I can probably ask you some questions about your recent project and what is waterfall, what is agile, then how do you deal with the conflict, how do you deal with your manager when there is a difference in the opinion, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and I believe that's all I would have time to really cover in the interview. But this is it.
Beautiful.
Cool. I hope it